Everyone is obsessed with protein powders. You've seen the tubs lining the shelves, bright labels, big claims. They promise bigger muscles, faster recovery, and even the fountain of youth. But here's the truth. Most of those powders are processed, overhyped, and in some cases downright harmful when consumed in excess. The real problem isn't whether you're eating enough protein, it's whether your body can use it effectively. And muscle loss, especially as we age, isn't just a cosmetic issue, it's a marker of metabolic dysfunction, frailty, and ultimately shorter lifespan. But here's the surprise. Nature has already given us a simple, whole food solution that works better than any scoop of powder. No artificial sweeteners, no chemical isolates, just real nutrition that your body recognizes and responds to instantly. When you walk into any grocery store or health food shop, you're greeted by a wall of plastic tubs. Vanilla whey, chocolate casein, pea protein, soy isolate, the list goes on. They're marketed as if they were essential. You want bigger muscles? Drink this shake. You want to burn fat? This powder will do it. You want to fight aging? 1 scoop a day? It sounds so simple, so convenient, so modern, but here's the uncomfortable truth. Those powders are not the magic bullet they pretend to be. In fact, they might be doing you more harm than good. The first problem is processing. When you take a food and strip it down to a single nutrient, you lose context. Nature never designed protein to arrive in your body alone. In real food, protein comes bundled with cofactors, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and other compounds that help your body break it down, absorb it, and use it properly. An egg, for example, doesn't just give you protein. It gives you leucine, but also choline, vitamin D, B vitamins, selenium, and fats that help regulate metabolism. Protein powder, on the other hand, is an isolate. It's been extracted, filtered, dried, flavored, and often sweetened. What you're left with is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. Second, many powders are contaminated with things you didn't sign up for. Independent testing has shown heavy metals like arsenic, cadmium, and lead in several popular brands. Why? Because the raw materials are concentrated and processed in ways that magnify whatever was in the soil or in the industrial pipeline. You can't taste it, you can't see it, but you are consuming it. Over time, that exposure adds up, and your kidneys and liver are the ones paying the price. Third, let's talk about insulin. Most people buy protein powder to build or maintain muscle, but what they don't realize is that many powders act just like sugar in the bloodstream. Whey, for example, is highly insulinogenic. It spikes insulin quickly. If you've just lifted weights, that spike can help shuttle amino acids into the muscle, but if you're sitting at a desk and sipping a shake, that same spike drives fat storage and worsens insulin resistance. That's the paradox. The very supplement people use to improve their body composition can, in the wrong context, accelerate metabolic disease. Fourth, protein powders feed the myth that more is always better. Marketing tells you that if you're not eating 150 grams, 200 grams, even 300 grams of protein a day, you're missing out. But the human body has limits. Beyond a certain point, excess protein doesn't build more muscle. It gets converted into glucose through gluconeogenesis, or it's burned for energy. That extra nitrogen has to be processed by the kidneys and excreted as urea, placing unnecessary strain on your system. So the very thing you thought was helping you may just be creating expensive urine. Fifth, powders come with additives. Flip the label around and you'll often find a chemistry set: artificial flavors, gums, emulsifiers, sweeteners, sucralose, asulfame, potassium, stevia extracts, monk fruit. The list is endless. These compounds are there to make the chalky mix taste like a milkshake, but they're not inert. Artificial sweeteners, for example, have been shown to alter the gut microbiome, and your gut bacteria play a central role in how your body regulates metabolism, inflammation, and even appetite. Change the ecosystem in the wrong way, and you create a ripple effect that undermines your health from the inside out. Sixth, Powders foster dependency. They convince people that real food isn't enough, that you must supplement to thrive. That's not science, that's marketing. For millions of years, humans maintained muscle mass, survived harsh environments, and reproduced successfully without tubs of flavored dust. The body knows what to do with steak, eggs, fish, beans, and nuts. It's only in the last few decades, under the influence of food industry advertising, that we've been trained to distrust our own food supply and reach for something engineered instead. And here's the irony. Most people using protein powders don't have a protein deficiency. In fact, in the Western diet, protein deficiency is almost unheard of. The average adult already consumes more than enough. The real issue is not lack of protein. It's poor metabolic health. If your insulin is elevated all the time, your body can't build or preserve muscle efficiently, no matter how much protein you consume. If your cells are inflamed, those amino acids won't get where they need to go. If your lifestyle is sedentary, the protein has nowhere to be directed. You can't out-supplement dysfunction. So what's the alternative? It's almost embarrassingly simple. Eat real food. Eggs, dairy, fish, legumes, nuts, seeds. These not only supply high-quality protein, they also deliver the cofactors your body needs to make use of that protein. They digest at the right pace, they come without hidden toxins, and they keep you satisfied. You won't find a glossy ad campaign for scrambled eggs or a piece of salmon, but your muscles will recognize the difference instantly. Protein powders are a product of our culture's obsession with shortcuts. We want results without effort, nutrients without food, and solutions without context. But biology doesn't work that way. Muscles don't respond to marketing. They respond to metabolism. And metabolism thrives on the complexity and balance of whole foods, not isolates. When most people think about muscle loss, they imagine it as a simple supply and demand problem. Muscles need protein, so if you don't eat enough, they shrink. That's the logic. And that's why the supplement industry pushes protein powders so aggressively, because if muscle equals protein, then more protein must equal more muscle. Simple equation, right? Except biology doesn't follow advertising slogans. Muscle preservation, especially as we age, is not just about how much protein you swallow, it's about whether your body can use it. And that depends less on how much protein you eat and more on the state of your metabolism. Let's start with sarcopenia, the technical term for age-related muscle loss. It doesn't happen because people suddenly stop eating protein when they turn 50. Most older adults actually eat enough. The problem is that their cells no longer respond to protein the way they used to. Think of it like static on a radio signal. When you're young, your body hears the amino acid signal loud and clear: build muscle. As you age, the volume drops, the static increases, and the muscle-building machinery doesn't fire the way it should. Scientists call this anabolic resistance. And what drives it? Insulin resistance and chronic inflammation. Insulin is often misunderstood as just a sugar hormone, but it's much more. It's a growth signal. When insulin works properly, it helps shuttle amino acids into muscle tissue so they can be used for repair and growth. But in a state of insulin resistance, where your cells stop listening to insulin's knock at the door, that pathway breaks down. Amino acids float around in the bloodstream, but they can't get into the muscle. So you can drink all the protein shakes you want, but if your metabolic signaling is broken, the protein goes elsewhere, often to the liver, where it gets turned into fat. That's why sarcopenia and fatty liver disease often show up together. They're two sides of the same metabolic coin. Then there's inflammation. Every bite of ultra-processed food, every night of poor sleep, every spike of stress adds to a slow burn of inflammatory signals in the body. And inflammation interferes with muscle protein synthesis. The machinery that should be building and repairing muscle gets clogged with immune signals instead. It's like trying to run a factory while the floor is covered in sludge. No matter how much raw material you bring in, production slows down. Another overlooked factor is mitochondrial health. Muscles aren't just protein, they're engines. They burn fuel, generate energy, and adapt to stress. If your mitochondria are damaged from years of excess sugar, toxins, or inactivity, your muscles lose their capacity to function, even if the protein is available. It's not just about feeding the machine, it's about keeping the machine in working order. Now here's the part people don't want to hear. Lifestyle matters more than supplements. If you sit all day, your muscles have no reason to hold on to protein. Muscle is expensive real estate for the body. It costs energy to maintain, and your body is ruthlessly efficient. If it senses that muscle isn't being used, it will break it down regardless of how much protein you eat. That's why resistance exercise is so powerful. It creates the demand signal that tells your body, keep this tissue, it's necessary. Without that demand, protein becomes fuel, not building block. Hormones also play a central role. Testosterone, growth hormone, and IGF-1 are all part of the anabolic orchestra. As these decline with age, the anabolic signal weakens. But again, diet and lifestyle shape how those hormones act. Chronically elevated insulin suppresses growth hormone. Poor sleep lowers testosterone. Inflammation interferes with IGF-1. You can't fix these by sprinkling protein powder into your morning smoothie. You fix them by repairing the metabolic environment. Let's consider an example. Imagine two 60-year-old men. Both eat the same amount of protein. One is insulin resistant, with high fasting insulin and chronic inflammation from a diet heavy in processed carbs and seed oils. The other eats whole foods, manages stress, exercises, and maintains insulin sensitivity. Who's going to preserve more muscle? It's not even close. The second man's body can hear the protein signal. The first man's body is deaf to it. Same input, different outcome, because metabolism is the gatekeeper. The supplement industry doesn't want you to think about any of this, because if you understand that muscle loss is a metabolic issue, you'll realize that powders aren't the fix. Fixing metabolism is harder to sell because it doesn't come in a scoop or a packet. It comes in the form of habits, choosing real food, moving your body, getting quality sleep, managing stress. Those don't fit neatly into a marketing campaign, but they're what actually works. And let's be clear, metabolism isn't just about burning calories. That's the most tired, outdated idea in nutrition. Metabolism is about how your body allocates resources, whether it stores, builds, repairs, or burns. A dysfunctional metabolism hoards fat and wastes muscle. A healthy metabolism preserves muscle and regulates energy. Protein intake is just one player in that orchestra. Without the conductor, the metabolic system, it's just noise. So the next time you hear someone say, "I'm losing muscle because I don't get enough protein," ask the deeper question, or is it because your body can't use the protein you're already eating? That shifts the focus from quantity to quality, from the surface problem to the root cause. Because at the end of the day, muscle loss is not solved with another scoop of powder. It's solved by restoring the metabolic pathways that make muscle possible in the first place. When you look at a piece of salmon, or an egg, or a handful of beans, you're not just looking at protein. You're looking at a complex biological package: nutrients, enzymes, antioxidants, fats, vitamins, minerals, all designed by nature to work together. This is what I mean when I say natural foods contain synergistic nutrients. The body isn't a chemistry set where you can just throw in one isolated compound and expect magic. It's a symphony, and real food plays the music as it was written. Protein powders, in contrast, strip away the orchestra and hand you a single instrument. It doesn't sound the same, and it doesn't work the same either. Take an egg. People obsess over its protein content, but that's just one note in the chord. Eggs also contain choline, which supports brain function and liver health. They contain vitamin D, essential for bone strength and immune function. They provide omega-3 fats if they're pasture-raised, which reduce inflammation and support cell membranes. They carry B vitamins like B12 and folate, which are required for energy metabolism. And critically, they package these nutrients with the amino acids in a form your body knows exactly how to use. That's synergy. You can't reproduce that by scooping powder into a shaker bottle. Or let's consider fish. Protein, yes, but also selenium, iodine, omega-3s, vitamin D. These compounds don't just ride along, they actively influence how the protein gets used. Omega-3s, for example, help reduce inflammation, making it easier for your muscles to respond to anabolic signals. Selenium is critical for thyroid function, which regulates metabolism. Without them, protein is just raw material with no construction crew. With them, protein becomes part of a living system that builds and maintains muscle tissue efficiently. Now let's look at plant foods. Beans and lentils don't just give you protein, they deliver fiber. That fiber feeds the gut microbiome, which in turn produces short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. Butyrate reduces inflammation, stabilizes blood sugar, and even improves insulin sensitivity. Remember, insulin sensitivity is what allows amino acids to enter muscle cells in the first place. So that fiber in beans is not just about digestion, it directly affects whether the protein you ate can do its job. Try finding that in a tub of whey powder. Another layer of synergy comes from antioxidants. Whole foods are loaded with polyphenols, carotenoids, and flavonoids. These compounds don't contribute calories, and they're not macronutrients, but they protect proteins and fats in your body from oxidative damage. Oxidation is like rust on your tissues. When your muscles are under oxidative stress, they break down faster than they can be rebuilt. Antioxidants from foods like berries, leafy greens, and nuts provide the shield that allows muscle protein synthesis to occur without interference. A powder stripped of these compounds leaves your body vulnerable. And here's a key point. Synergy isn't just about the presence of nutrients, it's about timing and context. In whole foods, nutrients arrive in combinations that the body expects. Fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K come packaged with fats, which is exactly what you need to absorb them. Magnesium shows up with plant-based proteins, helping regulate muscle contraction and relaxation. Zinc often comes alongside animal proteins, which makes sense because zinc is critical for testosterone production and immune function. The body evolved with these pairings, break them apart, and the system doesn't operate as smoothly. This is why the reductionist approach of the supplement industry is flawed. They say protein builds muscle. So let's give people pure, but it's not pure protein that builds muscle. It's protein plus the cofactors that enable the machinery to run. Without those cofactors, your body wastes resources trying to compensate. Imagine giving a carpenter wood with no nails, no tools, no blueprints. The raw material is there, but the ability to build is missing. Whole foods provide the nails and the hammer along with the wood. Let's dig into an example. Leucine, the amino acid that triggers muscle protein synthesis. Yes, you can isolate leucine. Yes, you can put it in a capsule or a powder. But in food, say a piece of chicken, it doesn't arrive alone. It comes with isoleucine and valine, the other branched-chain amino acids that balance its action. It comes with vitamins like B6, needed to metabolize amino acids. It comes with iron, which delivers oxygen to muscles. You can't ignore the supporting cast, otherwise the star player doesn't perform. Now let's not forget the issue of satiety. Protein powders may deliver amino acids, but they rarely satisfy hunger the way real food does. That's because satiety isn't triggered by protein alone. It's a combination of stretch receptors in the stomach, hormonal signals from fats and fibers, and nutrient-sensing pathways in the brain. Whole foods light up all those signals, telling your body you've had enough. Powders bypass most of them, leaving you hungry again. That's not synergy, that's imbalance. The food industry loves to sell you on simplification, one scoop, one solution. But biology doesn't work that way. Real foods are complex for a reason. The synergy of their nutrients reflects millions of years of evolution fine-tuned to support survival, growth, and repair. When you honor that complexity, your muscles, your metabolism, and your overall health all benefit. When you ignore it in favor of convenience, you get diminishing returns. So when I say natural foods contain synergistic nutrients, I'm pointing to this bigger truth. Your body isn't looking for isolated compounds. It's looking for the orchestra. It's looking for the harmony that only comes from food as nature designed it. Protein powders hand you one note on a piano and tell you it's music. But if you want your metabolism to thrive, you need the whole symphony. And that symphony is only found in real, unprocessed food. The supplement industry thrives on one word: instant results, instant gains, instant recovery. It's an appealing promise, especially in a culture addicted to speed. Protein powders lean into this psychology: just scoop, shake, and swallow, and you've supposedly hacked your way into better muscles. But here's the irony: there are natural foods that actually do work instantly in ways powders only pretend to, and they do it not by being engineered in a factory, but by being designed by nature to activate muscle protein synthesis the moment they hit your system. Let's take leucine as an example. Leucine is an amino acid, and it's the spark plug that turns on the muscle-building engine. When leucine levels rise in the bloodstream, the mTOR pathway in muscle cells is activated, and muscle protein synthesis begins. Powders try to capitalize on this by being leucine-rich. But here's what most people don't realize: certain whole foods already contain leucine in exactly the right proportions, along with the cofactors that make it effective. Eggs, for instance, contain about 2 grams of leucine per serving, plus all the essential amino acids, plus vitamin D, plus choline, plus healthy fats. The result? When you eat eggs, the leucine doesn't just float around in your blood, it's ushered directly into the process of building and maintaining muscle tissue. That's instant activation. No marketing hype required. Another example is dairy. Yogurt, milk, and cheese don't just contain protein, they contain whey and casein together. Whey is fast digesting, giving you that quick spike of amino acids. Casein is slow digesting, providing a sustained release over several hours. Together, they create a 1-2 punch: immediate muscle protein synthesis and long-lasting support. The powders try to mimic this, but when you drink a glass of milk or eat Greek yogurt, you're getting that synergy naturally. No need for artificial flavors, emulsifiers, or gums. Just real food doing exactly what your body expects it to do. Now, let's talk about speed in a broader sense. Muscle loss doesn't wait. Once you cross a certain age, you can lose 1–2% of your muscle mass every year. That adds up quickly, and it doesn't take long before you're weaker, slower, and at higher risk for falls and fractures. If you want to slow or stop that decline, you need interventions that work right away, not 6 months from now. Whole foods deliver that because they're recognized by the body as food, not as an isolated chemical. The digestion process is efficient, the signaling is clear, and the results show up not just in muscle but in energy, metabolism, and satiety. Think about it. When you eat a piece of salmon, the protein is broken down into amino acids, the omega-3 fats lower inflammation, the selenium supports thyroid function, and the vitamin D strengthens bones, all at the same time. That's instant. Because it's not just one pathway firing, it's multiple systems lighting up simultaneously. Your muscles, your hormones, your immune system, your brain, they're all getting signals at once. Compare that to a scoop of powder that delivers protein without the cofactors. The powder might give you amino acids, but the rest of the orchestra is silent. The concept of instant also applies to how natural foods affect insulin sensitivity. Remember, insulin is the doorman for amino acids. If your cells don't respond to insulin, the amino acids can't get inside. Whole foods like beans, nuts, and leafy greens improve insulin sensitivity because of their fiber, their micronutrients, and their antioxidants. When you eat them regularly, your muscles are primed to respond instantly to protein when it arrives. That means the protein you eat at dinner is more likely to be used for repair instead of being stored as fat. That's not just instant, it's lasting. There's another layer to this story: satiety. When you drink a protein shake, it may fill you up for an hour or two, but often hunger creeps back quickly. That's because satiety isn't triggered by protein alone. It requires fiber, fat, and stretch receptors in the stomach. Whole foods deliver all of that in one package. Eat a breakfast of eggs and vegetables, and you're full for hours because your gut, your brain, and your metabolism all got the signals they needed. That's instant in the truest sense. It changes how you feel and function right away. What the supplement industry has done is hijack the language of immediacy while ignoring biology. They say their powders work faster because they're already pre-digested into isolates. But faster isn't better if the signal is incomplete. It's like trying to start a car by jamming the key halfway into the ignition. You might get a spark, but the engine won't run properly. Natural foods don't just spark the engine. They start it, fuel it, and keep it running smoothly. And here's the kicker. Real food doesn't just work instantly for muscle, it works instantly for health. Within hours of eating a real food meal rich in protein, healthy fats, and fiber, your blood sugar stabilizes, your insulin drops, your satiety hormones increase, and your muscles start repairing. That's measurable, immediate, and reproducible. No scoop of artificially sweetened powder can match that cascade of benefits. So when I say the natural food in question works instantly, I don't mean in the superficial way the ads suggest. I mean it works instantly because it speaks the body's language. It delivers the signal and the cofactors together. It improves insulin sensitivity, reduces inflammation, and supports satiety in real time. It doesn't need a glossy label to prove itself. You can feel it. That's the beauty of real food. It doesn't make promises, it delivers results, and it does so the way nature intended, instantly. Walk into any gym locker room, and you'll see the ritual shaker bottles filled with chalky liquid, scoops of powder measured with precision, people chugging as if their muscles depended on it. The underlying belief is clear: supplements are superior, faster, more modern than real food. Why bother with an omelet or a piece of salmon when you can just drink your protein? But that belief is upside down. When it comes to long-term health, real food beats supplements every single time, not just by a little, by a landslide, and the science is clear on why. First, let's start with the obvious. Supplements are processed products. They're manufactured in industrial facilities, often with dozens of steps: extraction, concentration, isolation, chemical modification, flavoring, stabilizing. By the time they reach your shaker bottle, they're far removed from anything nature ever intended. Real food, on the other hand, is unprocessed or minimally processed. It comes with the context intact, the matrix of nutrients that work together, the natural ratios, the cofactors. Your body recognizes it. It knows exactly how to break it down, absorb it, and put it to work. Second, supplements are reductionist. They're built on the idea that you can take one nutrient, isolate it, and reap all the benefits. But the human body doesn't run on isolated compounds. It runs on networks, on interactions. Protein by itself doesn't build muscle. You need leucine to trigger synthesis, vitamin D to regulate it, magnesium to stabilize it, antioxidants to protect it, and insulin sensitivity to allow it. A chicken breast or a bowl of lentils provides that orchestra. A powder hands you a soloist and tells you it's enough. Over the short term, you might get by. Over the long term, the missing pieces add up and your health pays the price. Third, real food is protective in ways supplements can't be. Whole foods contain thousands of phytonutrients, polyphenols, flavonoids, carotenoids that don't show up on nutrition labels but are essential for reducing inflammation, preventing oxidative damage, and maintaining cellular health. These compounds aren't optional extras, they're integral to the way your body handles stress and repair. A protein shake might deliver amino acids, but it won't deliver resveratrol from grapes, sulforaphane from broccoli, or curcumin from turmeric. These are the compounds that keep your tissues resilient over decades. Without them, you're patching holes in the wall while the foundation crumbles. Fourth, supplements encourage dependency. Once you start believing you need powders, pills, and capsules to be healthy, you stop trusting food. That mindset is dangerous because it divorces health from lifestyle. It tells people they can eat poorly, skip real meals, and just supplement their way out of it. But metabolic disease doesn't work like that. You can't undo chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, or fatty liver with a scoop of powder. Those conditions are driven by processed foods, and supplements are just another processed product. Long-term health requires repairing the system with real food, not doubling down on more processing. Fifth, supplements don't prevent chronic disease. Let's be blunt. No study has ever shown that protein powders extend lifespan, reduce risk of heart disease, prevent cancer, or improve long-term health outcomes. Real food does. Diets rich in whole foods, Mediterranean, Okinawan, Nordic, plant-forward, consistently show lower rates of chronic illness and longer lifespans. That's not magic, it's biology. The complex nutrient interactions in real food create resilience at the cellular level. Supplements at best provide band-aids. They can't replicate the protective effect of food over decades. Sixth, supplements can backfire. Too much protein in powdered form can stress the kidneys, spike insulin, or feed cancer pathways like IGF-1. Too much isolated antioxidant can actually increase oxidative stress. High-dose vitamin supplements can create imbalances that harm more than they help. Real food, by contrast, is self-limiting. You can't overeat steak or beans in the same reckless way you can oversupplement. Food comes with built-in checks and balances, fiber that slows digestion, bulk that triggers satiety, flavors that signal enough. Supplements bypass those guardrails, and that's why they're risky long-term. Seventh, real food teaches your body how to function properly. When you eat a variety of whole foods, you train your metabolism to adapt, regulate, and self-correct. You support your microbiome, balance your hormones, and strengthen your immune system. Supplements don't train anything, they bypass the system. They give you a quick input without engaging the regulatory machinery. Over time, that makes your body less resilient, not more. It's like using crutches when you don't need them. The longer you rely on them, the weaker you become. Let's not forget the psychological piece. Eating real food is a sensory, cultural, and social experience. It connects you to family, tradition, and community. That's not a trivial detail, it's central to long-term health. People who share real meals live longer, not just because of the nutrients, but because of the connection. A shaker bottle in your car cup holder doesn't offer that. Supplements isolate you. Real food integrates you. And integration is what sustains health across a lifetime. So why do supplements sell so well? Because they offer convenience and the illusion of control. You can buy them, measure them, consume them quickly. It feels scientific, but biology doesn't care about convenience. Biology cares about systems, balance, and resilience. That's what real food provides. If you're interested in short-term vanity, bigger biceps for the summer, maybe a powder will do. But if you care about long-term health, keeping your independence into your 70s, avoiding chronic disease, living with vitality, real food is the only option. Real food nourishes, protects, and heals in ways no supplement ever can. So the equation is simple. Supplements may look like a shortcut, but they're not the destination. They're a detour, and often a costly one. Real food is the path. It always has been. It always will be. Because when it comes to long-term health, the body doesn't want isolates, it wants synergy. It wants the full package. It wants food the way nature made it. That's the only thing that truly lasts.